Laziali all over the world. Welcome to a special episode of Lazio Lounge. We are live on Twitch. Please subscribe to our Twitch channel. We just have 5 subscribers. That's simply not acceptable. Lazio fan all over the world. Go immediately to our Twitch channel. We are live on YouTube, and you will find the podcast audio on Spotify, Spreaker, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We are here to talk about Venezia-Lazio. Last match of the year for Lazio. A great win. But again, as usually, there are a lot of things to talk about. And I'm here with a couple of friends. Sean McIntosh. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Ciao, Vittorio. I'm great. I'm excited to be at least chatting post-victory. So,
And unfortunately, joined by Alistair McKenzie, even though he's freezing sometimes. Hello, Alistair.
Hello. Yeah, I'm going to try and get through this one without any technical problems. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that one.
So, guys, second win in a row for Lazio. We beat Genoa at home, and now we beat Venezia away, which isn't an easy match. Let's not forget that Roma lost against Venezia away. Juventus drew against Venezia away, and Lazio was able to win 3-1. I wouldn't say a comfortable win, but definitely we saw some improvement. Starting from Sean, second win in a row without Ciro Immobile. That's a sign of improvement, I would say.
yeah, I mean, when you look at it in a vacuum and you just look at this match by itself, there's not a lot to be overly enthusiastic about. But I will say that given a little bit of context with how we've been playing, with our form on the road, with how topsy-turvy Serie A has been for essentially everybody, but it seems like Inter maybe. There's been an up and down season for a lot of clubs. So when you take all of that and then you add the fact that we're playing without Cheetah and we know our performances without him, and you look at a 3-1 result, I think you have to say it's a sign of improvement because this certainly could have went a number of ways. So yeah, I was happy with the result. And when you look at everything, you have to be a little bit happy with the small improvements.
Alistair?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, to be honest, I was happy to see Sarri being happy as well because he seemed to think that he'd seen more of his kind of style, his methods being on display in that match than he has done in previous ones. It should be said, didn't risk an awful lot in that game in terms of defensively. It was frustrating to yet again concede a goal, despite having a game where you feel like we could have got a clean sheet. But I think we have to get used to that one until we bring in a new selection of defenders. But yeah, I mean, like Sean said, it's without Ciro, it's a whole different game. And for Lazio to have 2 matches in a row and score 6 goals without him up there is massive, especially compared to the first time we saw that being experimented with this season, which was it ended with no shots on target, I think, at all in that Juventus game. So really positive. I mean, Vittorio, you mentioned the teams who have gone to Venice this season and struggled. So it's not an easy place to go. It's quite a short, compact pill. So yeah, I think we have to be pretty happy. Are you happy?
Our former manager would say, I don't remember saves from Strakosha, which is true, to be honest. I don't remember saves from Strakosha. And yeah, the goal was a little bit unlucky, but Venezia was pressing high. So, you could see something going wrong there. It's funny because when Juventus drew against Venezia, I don't remember which website did an article saying, well, going to Venezia is complicated. You have to travel by sea for 30 minutes. A lot of players of Juventus arrived to the stadium seasick. So it's complicated, and we will, it's simply some of excuses that are simply unbelievable. What is it? It's a joke. I mean, can you find it? There was seasick because 30 minutes of boat to get to the stadium. It's simply ridiculous. But still, it was a comfortable win, and we saw some improvement defending and attacking because again, we created a lot of chances. we scored 3 goals and we scored 6 goals in the last 2 matches without Chiro, and we allowed only 2 goals in the last 2 matches, while before we allowed 6 goals in the last 2. So we saw improvement there, which is definitely encouraging. And again, guys, what can we say about Pedro? Not only the goal, but another great performance. Alistair, Pedro and Zaccagni, really encouraging signing.
Yeah, I think, like I said in the last, after the Genoa game, I was surprised at first that Pedro wasn't the one being used through the middle, but it seems like whatever the situation is, but by having Felipe Anderson through the middle, he seems to be even more lively on the right. I think he was the most dangerous player we had in the Genoa game, and then again against Venezia. And the goal he scored was brilliant, even if the goalkeeper was could be questioned, let's say. It was a bit of a Pepe Reina moment, perhaps, for Romero. But yeah, I mean, it's a great run. He was, threatening down the right side all night. It's great to see this kind of alternative front three working, and they're so so flexible that between the three of them, you saw a lot of that movement. I think Sarri said he was going to do that before the game, actually, with the three of them kind of exchanging positions a lot more, and there being that kind of Zaccagni dropping into the number 10 position quite often. That's going to cause a lot of problems for opposition defenses, because between the three of them, the technical level is extremely high. And then it's just down to having someone who's got, cold-blooded enough to finish off the chances. So it's really encouraging to see both of those things on display. I mean, Zaccagni's really growing into it, isn't he? I mean, Sean, what do you think of him so far? Feels like he's got a big second half of the season coming up.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a player that went from being a little bit disappointing, and not because of his performances on the pitch, but obviously his inability to remain and be fit and provide the things that we thought he was going to provide. And so now that he's fully fit, he's come out really with a bang and provided absolutely what we've needed. And for me, it's been pretty positive to see how Sarri has been willing to change some things. And so that to me is probably the biggest positive from Sarri so far, is his ability to change up what doesn't work. And we've seen it, and you mentioned it, like I would have thought he would have stuck with Pedro as that false nine, but slotting in Felipe Anderson and seeing the way Pedro just operates. I mean, absolutely performing at a different level, and seeing Zaccagni right there alongside him in terms of performances. I'm it's better than I would have expected, but certainly given how frustrated I was with his inability to play, this has been a nice addition for us, and it gives us a strength in our wing position. And I went into this season thinking that was an area of strength and a little bit of depth for us. So it's nice to see that maybe we have one area on this roster where we can feel a little bit good.
Yeah, and I would add, it's unbelievable if you think that Roma gave us Pedro for free. That's, it still makes me laugh a lot. And the other thing on Zaccagni, I thought in the second half, when Acerbi got injured and we were basically playing 10 men, he was very useful even defending. He recovered a couple of very important balls in our half. And, you could expect from Zaccagni creating chances, but also giving a hand there was really, really important, and it makes you understand how the players have improved, how he learned the scheme, the tactics of Lazio. So I think that's very important, and that's a very positive sign going forward. One other thing,
it helps. Sorry, Vittorio. It helps too when you have a player like Pedro, who's 34 years old, who is leading and doing those things himself, where you can't do anything but drop back and give that type of energy and effort when you see a player like Pedro, who has accomplished everything at every level, who's 34 years old, who looks like the youngest player on the pitch, looks like he's the one that has something to prove. So when you're a player like Zaccagni, you can't help but give that same level of effort when you see somebody else like that doing it.
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest surprise, I would say, of yesterday was seeing Radu starting on the left back. Isai wasn't fit, so Sarri decide to start Radu, I think this is a sign, a very important sign. This could mean that Lazzari could leave in January. And another important sign is Murici didn't come in on yesterday. But when he took off Felipe Anderson, Andre Anderson came in. So starting with Sean, do you think this is a signal, a clear signal that both players are heading out? They're going to be sold in January? Or it's just, the flow of the match, how Sarri thought it was better to play?
Well, I don't think there are a lot of signs that need to be dissected or read or investigated. I think we all know that the club and Murici himself want a change of scenery, and so it's just a matter of if Lazio can find somebody to offer up the right type of dollars that's going to make Lotito happy. Obviously, we can all expect that we're gonna be upside down on that. When it comes to Lazzari, I still think there's hope. It doesn't look great. I think it was speculated right off the bat once Sarri came on board that this system wasn't going to be a fit for Lazzari. I believe that Lazzari can be a strong player in this system. It doesn't appear as if Sarri has that faith. I'd be hard pressed to believe that exit comes in January. And I mentioned I'm pretty happy with the way that Sarri. Sarri started, and when Sarri was appointed, a lot of the things that you heard that were negative about him was his inability to adjust or be really, really thick-headed and unwilling to change his ways. And I think what we've seen, and it's been really refreshing, is quite the opposite. He's given players chances. We saw Strakosha, who was essentially in the doghouse, and we never thought he would be back. And all of a sudden, he's our number one again. You see a player like Cataldi being given chances. And so I think if Lazzari is still going to be with us, and I believe he will be through January, then you can't but expect or hope that he'll be given chances, and it's going to be on him to perform. But I think right now you have to say that Sarri probably doesn't trust him in that starting 11.
I think the question about this is probably not so much about Lazzari's ability or his place in the squad, or even really how Sarri sees him, though, and more about I don't think many people can argue at this stage Lazio need to invest in this squad to improve it, to give Sarri a squad that more resembles what he needs to make his style of football work. And so if you're wanting to therefore sign a lot of players, you're going to have to sell some, because we're not going to have a lot of ready cash to go and splash out in January, especially if you consider that nobody's been going to games this year as well. So there's not even any gate receipts. We're basically back in COVID times again with absolutely nobody in the stadiums. So I think Lazzari's name being thrown out there isn't a coincidence, because if you look at what his role has been this season, which is as a squad player, rotation player, but he at the same time is of an age and with a reputation that he could still get a very good transfer fee, I would have thought, if they could do it right. Murici is another totally different question, because that's more about his total underperformance over the last year and a half. But yeah, I do believe the Lazzari thing. I think if they were received an offer that they thought was sensible, they might be tempted to take it and then reinvest in other parts of the squad. But at the same time, if you lose Lazzari, basically the only part of the squad that we feel like currently has a decent depth of cover suddenly doesn't. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, depending on how you then reinvest any money that you bring in from them. I don't know. What do you think, Vittorio?
Nobody talked about Stefan Radu. I thought the performance of Radu was great. And as Shaw was mentioning, it's good because everybody said that Sarri sticks with 11 players and that's it. One of the biggest concern Napoli fans had with Sarri is that he was sticking with 11 players and all the others didn't feel part of the group and they were out. Instead, we are seeing, my impression is that Sarri started with an idea like Leva starting, Reina starting, etc. And then going forward, he adjusts, thinking, no, maybe Cataldi is better here, maybe Strakosha is better. And again, he's improving because his eye was one of his men. And now he gave a chance to Lazzari, and now he's giving a chance with to Radu. I thought Radu can definitely play there. And I thought he played really well yesterday. Obviously, we were talking about Venezia, not Real Madrid, but that's a very encouraging sign. About Lazzari, I will be very disappointed if he goes in January. But Alistair makes a very valid point. Lazio need money. So, yeah, I know. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. But, the other thing is, well, we have the cash from the Binance deal. So maybe we can use that in January and keep Lazzari.
Maybe sell Salernitana and use some of that.
I don't think that money is coming to us, but who knows? But yeah, I think we need to sign a couple of players this January to improve the team. We need a Vice Immobile, because one thing is, last year Ciro Immobile missed just 3 matches in Serie A, and the last one was Sassuolo-Lazio, the last match of the season. We are in December and he already missed 4 matches. So I can see this trend increasing. I don't believe Immobile will play all the rest of the matches this season. And Felipe Anderson, we have to talk about him. He played great against Genoa, but he was terrible yesterday. I don't think that's the solution, or at least that cannot be the only solution we have. It's pretty clear that Murici is out. He didn't even come in yesterday. He preferred putting Andre Anderson out of position than giving a chance to Murici. I really think we need a Vice Immobile, but I don't think lasagna is going to be the solution. We need something better, right, Sean?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been proven now with the Murici experiment, and given some signs that Cheetah, is going to miss some games, and we know obviously now COVID is becoming a concern, and with that knowledge, there are players that are going to have to sit, and so I think we have to go with somebody a little bit more proven. I mean, we can't risk taking a player that may or may not work, or that may not be up to our standards at this point. So I think, but again, it's all going to come down to investments, and we very rarely sign a player that comes in with that level of experience or track record, and then we're talking about January. That never happens. So I think we have to level set our expectations a little bit. I mean, Kevin Lasagna in January is probably a big win for us. I mean, given our Januaries,
that's true.
It's a big win for shirt sales, because Lasagna is the best name in Serie A, Kevin Lasagna. I'm leaving
the podcast after this. Sorry.
The way I see it, I think that ideally, and yeah, I know this is a long shot, but I'm just talking about, pie in the sky ideas. But I think that ideally what Lazio need in January is a player who can actually play anywhere across that front three, who's comfortable being the Vice Immobile, who can play through the center, but is also comfortable stepping into one of the wide roles too. So for me, the kind of ideal dream signing would be someone like Giacomo Raspadori, because he's young, he's Italian, he's got Serie A experience, and he knows how to play through the middle and out wide. Now, he's obviously at Sassuolo. It's a club that is still like, you would still see joining Lazio as a step up from being at Sassuolo, but obviously he's been linked with huge number of teams in the last year or so, and I don't realistically think that's going to happen in January for Lazio. But I just want to put out there that I think that's the kind of profile of player ideally I think Lazio would like, because then you're not just saying to someone, you're not just selling joining Lazio as being the number 2 to Ciro, because I think that's quite a hard sell to people to say Ciro is so set in stone as the starting striker. Whereas if you're opening up the option of being, getting a place in the team on either wing as well, then, it becomes a bit more appealing.
Well, given his age, I think the appeal is that, he's that next heir to the Cheeto throne, which would be nice, because it's something that we probably should start thinking about. Cheeto has a couple good seasons, knock on wood, but he's not young.
No. If Lazio sign in January Raspadori, I will start every single pod of Lazio Lounge for next year praising Alistair McKenzie. This is how much I believe he's going to sign in January.
That's on record.
Yeah. I think you have no chance. But for example,
Yeah, me too.
Keita would be a
Yeah.
interesting name. He's pretty much out of Cagliari. I mean, that's a funny thing. Cagliari's decided to sell Godin, Casares, and so on. Keita could be one of them. And I know Keita has some issues, but he could play on the wingers and playing as a number 9. So this could be the perfect solution, considering Lazio budget, obviously, because, everybody would say, well, Mbappe would be perfect. Yeah, Lazio can afford 1 month of salary of Mbappe. So Keita would probably be the best chance Lazio has, seeing how things are going with Cagliari. One thing that really annoys me, guys, is that we are not able to celebrate a win. Last week, after Genoa victory, there has been complaining about Acerbi. Il Messaggero said that Sarri was pissed off with Milinkovic Savic. After Venice victory, the Curva Nord said that they don't want Acerbi anymore with a Lazio shirt. Again, we are so good in creating issue ourselves that it's simply unbelievable. But starting with Sean, what do you think about this situation? What's your take?
I mean, nobody looks great in this situation. You wish Acerbi didn't hush the curva. We know that's a bad look. Wherever you are and wherever you're playing. I mean, we've talked about the attendance issues this season, and for those fans that did show up, and to have a player with as big of a profile do that, I mean, it's not great. You don't want to see that. Now, you can run through the list of excuses, and we know Acerbi apologized for it. Didn't apologize in the way that it seems like they wanted. But I think the response is a little silly. It's certainly harsh. But I will say that it's funny. It's always everybody wants to take every opportunity to just pile on Lazio. And how many times have we seen clubs and their curvas issue a note, some sort of statement, and very rarely do these statements ever come across well. And so this isn't a Lazio thing. It's like I see on everywhere. I've seen it on Instagram and on Twitter. Everybody piling on. Up there's Lazio again. Worst fans. Yada yada yada. But again, it's one of those things where you look in the mirror, and because every single club and their curva do this or issue something a little bit silly. So yeah, I don't love it on anybody. I don't think anybody comes out the winner when this happens, and it's certainly harsh. It's a statement that again, Acerbi's given us a lot, and likewise, I mean, he shouldn't have hushed the fans. So there's only losers in this situation.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of got to a point where even after discussing it earlier this week, we felt like we could probably move on. And I think that's the frustrating thing about it, is it's now gone from a situation where it's something that we don't like and something that we maybe think less of Acerbi for, or get a bit annoyed about him for. But come on, I mean, to turn this into like a witch hunt where they're calling for him to be, removed from Rome as quickly as possible and stuff just seems totally over the top. And like it's creating like you said, Vittorio, a poisonous atmosphere when there's no real need to have one. We just won 2 games in a row. And in the space of those 2 games have managed to turn, one of our longest serving and best defenders into a subject of hate from a large section of the support. And like we've already kind of talked about this a few days ago, we can understand why it upsets people, and we agreed that it's not something he should have done, like you say, but you can move on. You can really move on. We don't need to turn this into a day where they decide they're going to boo him every single time he touches the ball from now on. I mean,
Yeah,
This affects the club too.
Let's help
This affects
ourselves,
the
you
club.
know.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
think about how it hurts us. You know,
yeah.
besides the fact that Achadbi's our best center back, and we don't have a lot of those. But you know, we're talking about our desires in the transfer window, and this sets a really harsh recruiting precedent. You think players want to come play in situations where there's no support from the fans, and you have this kind of a treatment from the curva. I think all it does is hurts the club, and this is the challenge and the issue when we talk about the Curva Nord. Is, you know, we're supposed to be, as supporters, we're supposed to be thinking about the club first, everything to help the club, and so often, you know, when there's statements or actions, does everything but help the club, and so that for me is the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I want to point out that the issue was that Acerbi, after Venezia-Lazio, didn't come under the curva to apologize for what he did last time, but he was injured. So he left the pitch because he couldn't move anymore. So it's not that he did it on purpose, simply he was injured. And you should have understand that. So again, we love to create issue around our team, which is simply not acceptable. But the funny thing about this is with these two victories, 6 points, Lazio recover 5 points in just 2 matches to Atalanta that was looking just a couple of weeks ago, running away with a 4th spot. We recover points against Napoli that again was looking, you know, far away from us. We got back points against Roma. So if 2 weeks ago Champions League was looking far away and pretty much impossible, now things have changed. It's true that Juventus is doing even better, but you know, this season is really strange. And thinking to be at the end of this year just a couple of points away from Roma and from the 4th spot, knowing that Lazio needed time to adapt to Sarri, this is encouraging, right? This is really promising for the rest of the season, Alistair. Do you agree with me, or I'm too optimistic?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you know, at this we've now reached the mid-season point, so I think if you're going to look back on it, it has been full of ups and downs, and I do agree with you. I think Sarri said something like, we keep taking steps backwards, but then we'll make 2 steps forwards. And that's kind of how it's felt like. It does feel better now than at the start of the season, and that we are further along in the progress of getting this team playing in the way that he wants. But it does feel like it's been a real struggle at times to get there, and there have been some real lows, really poor results along the way. But yeah, to end up in this position, I don't think it's too bad. You know, I think we'd all rather be higher than 8th, but considering some of the results Lazio have had, some of the problems there have been with this squad, to be 3 points off 5th isn't the end of the world. There's a lot still to come, obviously, because of the European matches. The Coppa Italia starts in the new year, and we've got a pretty brutal start to the year as well, with Inter very quick up, and they just look on another planet at the moment to everyone else. So I'm still not getting too optimistic. I'm still not expecting much more from this season, as in I wouldn't be that surprised if we finished the season 8th, and I wouldn't think it's the end of the world either. But I think it's more about how he feels things are progressing, and crucially about how the club behaves in the January transfer market, which will be the first real test of their faith in this project and their faith in how things are going.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, look, we win 2 in a row, which isn't a streak by any sort of the imagination, but we can expect to be disappointed again. But this season has shown that any sort of streak is going to get you right back in there. I mean, look at what happened between the point differential with Napoli and Inter, and all of a sudden, you know, that swapped in a matter of just a handful of weeks. So it truly is a Serie A season where anything can happen. I think, given that we knew it would be ups and downs and it would take some time, you know, I'm content. I'm not panicked. I'm not outraged. I'm not thrilled. I'm perfectly at a C level, which is where I probably expected to be. There's still certainly some hope just because of how crazy this season can be, and certainly so much hinges on what we do in January. But I think you look at the calendar year table, and I think that's a really interesting one where it again kind of level sets what kind of a year we just had, because so much of the time we're angry, we're upset, and while it's not a table to be like super proud of, because we're not in, we didn't finish the calendar year in top 4, but it's pretty incredible when you think that we just finished a year with the highest point total that we've had, and that's pretty remarkable given how much this team has slipped, how much of a transitional season it is. And then you look at the point differential and the gap between us and our friends at Roma, and it's quite massive. So in this calendar year, Lazio would have finished the table in 6th position, Roma in 7th. So you think, oh, they're just neck and neck. But the difference between 6 and 7 was Lazio with 81 points and Roma with 68. So it's the largest gap in the table amongst any team. The next largest gap you're looking at is between Inter at 104 in top position, and then Atalanta at 94 with a 10-point gap. So, we always think of the chaos and the craziness, and we've actually been relatively fine. It's just about getting a few of these pieces in January, and because everybody's in a position where they can slip and fall for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden we're right back in it. So we'll see.
Yeah, that thing of the calendar year is very interesting, and it's true that it's funny because I thought this was the worst year for Lazio in the last 5 years, probably the last. I thought second year of Pioli was probably the worst than 2021, and so it's surprising. Again, this is a team that's building up, and we saw improvement, so this is really encouraging. I'm a little bit disappointed about Felipe Anderson, because after Genoa's match, I was, thinking that maybe he's switched on again. It's true that he's not playing in his favorite position. He played like a central striker yesterday, which is not obviously his best position. But I'm getting concerned because I don't know. Venezia should have been the perfect match for him to step up and confirm the performance he had against Genoa. And I don't know. I'm losing a little bit of faith on the Brazilian. I'm too pessimistic this time, or do you agree with me that Felipe Anderson have to decide what he wants to be? A great player or an average player for a team fighting for, Europe League and nothing more?
Well, I think because we started the season with him in great form, we were able to convince ourselves that it's Sarri, the Sarri effect. He knows how to unlock him. He's been showering him with praise, and he knows exactly how to finally get this guy playing at that top level ability that we've all known for years that he's got. But unfortunately, I think all we're seeing now is just the same thing that we saw last time we had him. I mean, it's the same thing. We just have to accept probably that this is Felipe Anderson. He is capable of some absolutely brilliant performances and reaching that very top level, but he's also very guilty of going missing for weeks at a time. And that's not really a surprise to any of us. It's just a bit of a shame, because when he started the season so well, we started to maybe believe that something else was going on. It might do, maybe we'll get there in the end, but I think he's a useful part of the squad, certainly. Again, I think we want to increase the options as much as possible and not rely on him too heavily, because he started, every game up until, I can't remember when it was, but he started a hell of a lot of games in a row. And I don't think we want to be relying too much on a player like that, because, as we've seen, his consistency has always been an issue.
Yeah, and with Sarri being so willing to change and give other players a try and He's been willing to light a fire under a couple players' asses. We've certainly seen him bench the likes of Luis Alberto and make changes. So it's interesting that he hasn't quite done that with Felipe Anderson. I don't know if it's because he doesn't believe that Felipe responds to that, and maybe that's some sort of an indictment on the mentality of Felipe Anderson. Maybe he's not the type of player that can handle that, or if it's an indictment on what he believes is the depth of that position, and the likes of Raul Moro maybe not being ready, or certainly Luca Romero is much too young, or anybody else. So I don't know. Curious, Vittorio, why do you think Sarri hasn't benched Felipe Anderson yet?
I don't know. I think it's more he believes that he can switch on in every single match. So you're wasting a chance if you put it on the bench. Plus, he's very weird guy, right? He can really disappear if he thinks that the manager doesn't trust him. He needs to feel love, and obviously, you give love to a player starting him more often than not. So I think this is one of the reasons why Sarri doesn't bench him too much. And this leads me to another question. After Genoa, I thought Luis Alberto would have started against Venice. 2 assists, great performance against Genoa. Instead, again, he started from the bench. He came in, he scored again. He doesn't. I was expecting like Luis Alberto scoring and then maybe going to the bench and doing something terrible to Sarri, gesture or thing. Instead, he was celebrating under the curva, all good, etc., which was a huge surprise for me. But, I was surprised to not see Luis Alberto playing. I don't know if there's a injured situation. Maybe he's not 100% fit. But I don't know.
Or maybe, like his namesake, another Luis at Atalanta, Muriel, maybe he's just decided he's the perfect super sub. Bring on Alberto when the opposition are tiring, half an hour left, and let him go.
But I think we lose too much talent in midfield. Again, Basic didn't play bad, but I think we didn't move the ball fast enough and good enough without Luis Alberto. Sean?
I mean, it's hard to argue with the result. It's hard. I don't think it has anything to do with fitness. And I think we've seen Luis Alberto come in and he's looked sharp. So I don't think fitness is the concern. I think, and I don't know that it's a message needing to be sent. I think any sort of message at this point, we're beyond. Luis Alberto is an experienced player. I think you sit him down once or twice and I think he gets it. I think purely, what Alistair said, I think Sarri is just seeing that, he's providing something off of the bench and Basic can cover enough ground in both facets of the game and give us that, and Luis Alberto, when the opposition's a little bit rugged and tired, can come in and have a greater effect. I don't know that that's the right call, but it's worked. So, if anything, Sarri's going to keep riding it until it doesn't work. And, the only way to change his mind is going to be results and continuing to perform. And then when, he inevitably will insert Luis into the starting 11, that's going to happen. Then we've got to perform. It's as simple as that.
One thing before we wrap it up, I really loved what Sarri did in the last minutes, because he put in Andre Anderson, the mystery man, I call him, because he played against Empoli, then he disappeared, and now he's suddenly back. We had Luis Alberto, Pedro, Andre Anderson, Milinkovic Savic. We had such quality in the team playing all together that even if Venezia was pushing, we were controlling the ball, move it with a lot of quality. And basically, we send a sort of message, right? Okay, we are defending, but instead of putting an extra defender, we will defend keeping the ball ourselves so that you cannot score because we have the ball. I like it. And we scored the last goal at the end. They were one man down, but, well, we had Acerbi also injured, so it was the same thing. But I like that type of message, right? If we have the ball, you cannot score. And adding Andre Anderson and Luis Alberto was an interesting situation, even because he took off Felipe Anderson. He didn't bring on Murici or Almoro. That could be the right solution, right? A winger or a striker. He put Andre Anderson and played him in not his ideal position. But we had so much quality that we didn't struggle in the last 10 minutes, right? So do you think this is another thing Sarri's trying? He's trying to see how it works with Lazio? Or it's just, it's the occasion. I don't trust Almoro. Murici is out of my plan. So, hey, who do I have? Oh, I have only Andre Anderson. Let's put it there. And Alison, what's your take on this?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I don't think he feels like the squad is really ready to do that as its game plan from the start, for sure. Because I mean, it was good to see that Sarri thought defensively that the structure of the team was sounder, and I do wonder if that that comes into the Alberto argument as well to a certain extent, is that you do have more you still have a lot of creativity on the pitch with the 11 that we had yesterday, but you've also got the work rate that we already spoke about from the two wingers to help out defensively, and Basic provides a lot more in defense and to cover for Cataldi, to help Cataldi as well, than Alberto does in that role. So it helps Lazio feel a bit more solid, but obviously that's from a far more kind of traditional working hard and physicality kind of standpoint than the idea of you can't score if you don't have the ball. I don't think there's really enough quality in the Lazio team to really work that effectively with that tactic, to be honest. And even so, it was a 3-1 win. We did still find ourselves in a position where we had about 10 men behind the ball, and Venezia were launching a long ball forward, and we were only 2-1 up at the time late on. So you're a kind of bad moment there away from this being a very different result.
Alistair, what happened when you moved to Scotland? You become pessimistic. When you were in Rome, you were so optimistic. Now, is it the cold weather, the rain that affects you? I mean,
got me down. Yeah, I'm lacking in vitamin D. And
yeah, I can imagine. Sean?
I mean, I don't know. Is it Sarri genius? Is it him, tactically trying to come up with something that's going to work, or is it simply lack of options? And maybe that's the way we approach every match now. We've got no center backs. We don't have defensemen. We have nobody that defensively can give us too much. So let's just throw in a bunch of players that can hold the ball and keep the ball, and that's going to be how we try to avoid giving up goals. And I think it might be the best way forward if we don't have any center backs in January.
Guys, before we wrap it up, the last question. I don't believe it's Acerbi's goal, to be honest. I don't see him touching the ball. For me, it's Cataldi from a corner kick. I don't know why the Lega Serie A gave it to Acerbi. He says he touches. I saw plenty of replay, and no, you don't.
Yeah, I didn't see the contact either. I think it's a Cataldi goal, but if you yell loud enough, I guess it's yours.
And it was funny looking on Twitter how many people were making jokes about Luis Alberto, who tried to score from corner kicks for 3 years in a row and never did it, and Cataldi tried once and scores. So
Acerbi now with two more goals than Zaniolo. So
yeah. Alistair, do you think it's Cataldi or Acerbi?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those. It seems to graze his shoulder. Maybe. I mean, he must have felt contact. Surely Acerbi's not being that determined to claim the goal. If it's
maybe he has a bonus in his contract.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. It was quite a funny one though, because the players kind of ran off celebrating and they didn't really know who to celebrate to, like to run with Acerbi or to go off to Cataldi.
Well, they went to Cataldi before, and then Acerbi said, "No, I touched it," and then they were all celebrating to Acerbi. So yeah, it was funny. Yeah. Again, guys, thank you for joining me in this lovely podcast. Thanks for everybody for listening. Remember, we are on Twitch. Please subscribe to our Twitch channel, on YouTube, on Spotify, Spreaker, wherever you listen to our podcast, we are there. So rate and subscribe to our podcast. Merry Christmas to everybody. And we're probably going to be back next week to wrap up a little bit the season of Lazio. Again, thanks, Sean, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas, ragazzi. Always a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Well, Merry Christmas even to you, Alistair.
Thank you very much, and to you, and everyone. Have a great time. Great festive
Hope you find
period.
your optimism when you come back to Rome.
Yeah. You never know. Possibly.
Bye, guys.